ProPresenter is taking over the church live streaming world. That's going to be one of our topics today in the Churchfront show. We actually have a special guest on today, Cody from ProPresenter. And no, ProPresenter they're not paying me to say that they're taking over the live streaming world. It's just my honest opinion of the new products and features that they've come out with within ProPresenter 7. I'm really excited about it. I've been a long time ProPresenter user, and I'm just excited about tools that make my job easier as a worship leader, and then also as a worship tech team member, and then also for the students and clients that we have in worship ministry school. I just love being able to show them like the power behind these tools. So today, that's what we're going to talk about is ProPresenter for a while here. If you're new to the Churchfront show, make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future shows. We try to do a live stream about once a week, just kind of depending if schedules work out. We love having guests on like Cody. If you guys have any ideas for shows or guests you'd like to see, let us know in the comments. Yeah, so without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in. Cody, tell us a little bit more about where you're coming from, like what your role is at Renewed Vision, where you're serving in a church. Give us a little bit of Cody backstory.
All right. I started at Renewed Vision a year and a half ago as their marketing director. Prior to that, I served full-time in churches for 6 years, and I'm currently part-time at a church as well. So I'm still in the church world, and that's my main passion and desire is to see the church grow and succeed and people come to know Jesus. And so I love doing that. But my full-time gig is at Renewed Vision, keeps my family alive and keeps me excited for the production side of ministry too.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Kind of having those like dual hats. I can relate to that between doing Churchfront, being in part-time worship leading. And you guys at your church, I just saw you posted in our Facebook group the other day a picture of your setup. So tell us more about your church plan that you're part of and you guys are launching. Like, where is it? Where are you guys at kind of in the phases of launching a church?
So we officially launched last weekend. We are a ARC church and a Converge church. Like both of those organizations helped us launch. And we started from nothing about 6 months ago, had some interest parties, did some just different things to get people excited in the area. And it's planting in Princeton, Texas, which is near Dallas. And so I actually came on board in December as their worship pastor. And so started investing in like, what are we going to do with all our equipment? How are we going to set it all up, getting ready? And then we officially launched this past Sunday. And it was pretty awesome. Also pretty strange because it's in the middle of COVID and not knowing what would happen because of that.
So you guys were you were in Ohio and now you're in Texas? You like had to move?
I was in Ohio and then moved to Texas about 10 months ago. Okay. My family knew that we needed to be here for something. God was calling us here. We didn't know what. And I guess we just kind of found out just 2 months ago.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. So tell me, I'm going to pull up the screenshot here of your post. Tell us what we're looking at right here.
So on the left side, we have our ProPresenter content. So that's all of our lyrics, our videos, graphics, anything going to our screens. And then on the right side, we have our live streaming computer, which is going to be using, we're not currently using, but we're going to be using a DAW, whether it's Logic or Studio One or something else. Mm-hmm. And then we're using ProPresenter to actually stream all of our content. So ProPresenter is pulling an NDI feed in from that first computer on the left for the lyrics and for the videos. And then we're just streaming straight to Resi.
Okay. So here's my first question. Why not go ahead and try to run it all on one computer? Like one ProPresenter application.
Yeah, and it's totally possible. At my previous church, we were doing that. We had a PC. It was super powerful. We're at our church right now. We're using one 16 gigabyte MacBook Air M1, and then one 8 gigabyte MacBook Air M1. Or sorry, not MacBook Air. That's stupid. A Mac Mini. That's what we got going on right there. But the reason we kind of wanted to split it up was I just wanted to make sure that if we had enough volunteers, that we could have someone dedicated to our live stream to make sure that we actually have like specific content going to it, or we can switch between cameras. We can actually do that within ProPresenter. And then just so that if something did go wrong, our live stream computer is still there and it's still running. I don't expect anything to go wrong in all of our testing. Nothing has happened wrong, but it is helpful to have things separated when possible.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's cool. Because I'm gonna pull up a recent presentation I've been working on here, because I'm about to release kind of an updated version of my beginner's guide to live streaming for churches. And
Yeah.
here, I'm gonna make it so everybody doesn't have to view everything while I'm talking here. So I have an recent update to that video for like a more what I would call like entry level live streaming setup that you can, especially if you have a computer that has enough horsepower to it. I think just run it all off of one, so you're not having to worry about bringing in lyrics externally into ProPresenter and stuff like that. And that's I think that's going to be a really compelling setup for a lot of churches, and I'm going to show you here the slide in 1 second. Okay, so I found it. It's always a weird thing. When I'm doing live streams, there's just always like a navigating around my computer and stuff like that. It's like
it changes.
It feels like you're naked doing that in front of a bunch of people.
Yes.
Not that there's nothing weird on there. It's just like, I don't know. It's just okay, so let me go back to my screen here.
And then the brain is like, what? Where is that at again?
I'm trying to talk to you, and I'm trying to navigate Ecamm Live, and I'm trying to pull up stuff. But okay, here is my keynote. So let me show you this is kind of my. Can you see that, Cody? Just fine. Okay. Yeah. So, because I think there's going to be some interesting, innovative things, and I might actually talk to you and the Renewed Vision team, as I'm kind of working with clients trying to get this stuff set up for them, and just some of the quirky things you have to set up. And I think with ProPresenter, with looks and queuing looks and stuff like that, you can solve a lot of these issues. But here's the setup that I'm kind of going for, and I want your kind of opinion on this. Anybody else in the opinion too? Adam, you can chime in. But you got some live action cameras going into the ATEM. So really functioning as just a video input device or video capture device with up to 4 live action cameras going into ProPresenter, and then in ProPresenter creating enough screens for congregation, stage display, and then live stream. I think in most churches those 3 screens will be enough. And then ProPresenter overlaying graphics, so I'm not having to like output graphics from a ProPresenter to another switcher or whatever. It actually, I think because ProPresenter has this live streaming capability, that's what actually makes me a bigger fan now of the ATEM Mini. Before, I wasn't a huge fan of the ATEM Mini because if you're trying to input like a graphics feed, that's taking up one of your inputs, and then if you want to have another graphics feed, it's like then you can only do 2 cameras ever. Where most churches, I think 3 or 4 cameras is like the ideal. So that's what got me excited about the ATEM Mini Pro. Finally, is like, okay, I don't have to use any of these inputs up for my graphics overlay. So then ProPresenter only has 1 video input. It's not trying to cut multiple video inputs, which I think would be more processor intensive on the computer, because the ATEM is doing most of that. And then audio from your interface going into ProPresenter, and then from here using either RTMP to restream or using the Resi integration then to the platforms. And then making sure you have a good Thunderbolt dongle for your in-person displays to go to HDMI. Ideally, get a Decklink Duo or something for your in-person displays. What are your thoughts on this?
I think that is the ideal setup, especially for someone who's just starting off and has less than 4 video inputs. Otherwise, they would probably need a bigger switcher at some point. But feeding cameras into a switcher, being able to switch them outside of ProPresenter, and then just using ProPresenter to overlay graphics and stream, I think is the ideal setup.
Yeah, and then you know what I mean about the I think people have to get better at setting up their looks and also queuing looks appropriately. Just something as simple as like, okay, maybe usually by default on my live stream feed, I'm not going to have the full media layer enabled because I don't want my background videos overlaying my live action video feeds, but for my live stream audience. But then let's say we play a bumper video. Well, it's like then I do want the media layer to be enabled.
Yep.
Unfortunately, you can just do that with looks. So am I thinking through that right in terms of like how we should be configuring our playlists and our cues?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And if you want, I can share my screen real quick, and I can show in ProPresenter.
Yep.
There, I'm sharing my screen.
Okay. Let's see here.
I would love to see this because yesterday I was working on looks and I was trying to figure out like what's the best layout, like what's the, to get to all these different screens. So I'm excited for this part.
Yep.
So
you're live.
Sweet. So if I go to screens at the top of ProPresenter, and then I go to edit looks. So this is going to have.
It's for everybody watching. It's not showing that window. It's only showing your.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Window.
You know what? Let me stop sharing for a second here, and I'll share my whole screen.
Sounds fine. Yeah, it's always what's quirky about these screen capturing things. Okay.
That better?
There we go. Yep. Now we can see it.
Sweet. Hello. Here's my head.
Wilson.
Yes. So this is the looks panel, and this is where you would go to add different looks. And so what is a look? Well, a look is how you want different content and different layers to display on different screens. So here I have my main screen. You got your 2 screens labeled at the top here for me. I got my main screen, which would be like maybe it's a projector. Then I have my live stream screen, which is just a placeholder screen. It's not actually outputting to anything, but that would output to my live stream. So on here, I would go on my presets and create a preset for every single different look I would ever want. So for me, I only have one look for lyrics. So for my lyrics, I want my video input on my live stream, but not my main screen. So I would take my video input off of my main screen. Now what happens is if I'm looking at my projector, I'm not going to have that video input showing up. So I wouldn't have the cameras coming into my ATEM Mini showing up on my projector, but it would show up in my live stream.
Yep. And
so that's what you do is you go through and here's your different layers from the top bottom, the bottom one being video input. So anything that goes on top of it would layer on top of it. If I wanted my lyrics to show up on both screens, but I didn't want the background videos, maybe I have background videos on a slide for my in-person stuff, I would turn it off the media layer on my live stream so that the backgrounds wouldn't show up, but just my text would. Mm-hmm. And then the other really neat feature of this is you can actually go into presentation and choose a theme. And so what that's going to do is whatever screen you have selected and whatever theme you have selected, it's going to show that theme only on that screen. So I can have this lower thirds theme here only showing on my live stream. So it's going to pull from the lyrics that are centered here on my projector, but it's going to do lower thirds on my live stream.
Who was the genius on the team who came up with this idea?
No clue. I'm in marketing.
Because I don't know. This is something that when you guys came out, because the looks thing is in the screens and the looks. This was a big upgrade for ProPresenter 7, right? When that came out last year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because now when I think about the ProPresenter 6, like I feel like that's like the dinosaur age.
You had some basic looks in ProPresenter 6, but it wasn't nearly this complex. And then so once you have these set up, then you can actually add them to specific slides. So maybe you have your lyric slides that you want that lyric look to show up on. So you can go to add action, audience look, and choose my lyrics. Now, every time I select that, it's not going to show up on my main screen, but it's going to show up on my live stream. Then when I go to my lyrics, they're showing up on my live stream as a lower third, but on my main screen, they're just showing up in that centered graphic there.
Yep.
So super powerful.
That's again, it's just like such a simple but ingenious solution to like what the types of things that we would need. And again, it's like it's like solving a problem that I never even knew I had until you guys came out with it. That's why last year when it came out with 7, I was like, oh, that's cool. But then I didn't realize, especially until like the live streaming stuff became a huge deal for all of us all. It's like, wow, like talk about providential timing with the updates you guys already added to ProPresenter 7, even just from a presentation graphics display standpoint. Not even talking about the live streaming stuff. Right. So
if we look back on, the past year, we introduced live streaming, but we were planning live streaming before that.
Cool.
So when ProPresenter 7 released, we wanted to have live streaming out. COVID pushed it faster because we weren't ready when 7 released. It was already in our plans. That was a big feature that we wanted to have be part of ProPresenter 7 from the get-go. But we weren't ready for it yet. It wasn't ready. So once COVID happened, we're like, let's get this out there. Let's make sure it works, and then let's get this out there. And then that's kind of how it came about, because it was like COVID had that need come really fast, where users were like, we have really complex setups with all these different computers, with all this different software. Well, why don't we just handle it all in one software? Super easy for volunteers. They already know how to use the software. Just make it easier for them.
Yep. Yeah, and it's funny because I remember the story, like it was April last year, you messaged me, and this was like after I started making a bunch of live streaming videos and, getting all that stuff out there, and you're like, hey, like what else would you want to see ProPresenter do? And I didn't really think about it until you asked me that question. I'm like, oh, well, if it could just do live streaming, then we wouldn't have a need for OBS, for vMix, for Ecamm, for all these other apps. They're great apps. I think they're great live streaming apps for other purposes. I mean, we're using Ecamm right now, so I'm a big fan of Ecamm. But I think like there's so many tools out there, and this is my thing for churches and live streaming. There are many ways to accomplish the task of getting a live stream feed to your congregation, and there's lots of tools to do it. You can kind of cobble them together however you want. But not all those tools were created with the church needs in mind. And that's what I think separates Renewed Vision and ProPresenter from the rest of the pack, where, yeah, you guys make your product for people outside of the church, like who need strong presentation software. But like, we all know, like the reason, like I'm pretty sure Renewed Vision, it was founded because the founders were creating presentation software for Passion Conference or something like that, right?
Right.
Like, you guys were kind of like founded for helping equip the church with these tools. And I think that shows today, however 10, 20 years later, however long it's been around, that like it's like, what problems does the church have? And now let's develop the software to fix that problem. So, yeah, so it was funny because that's what I was thinking out loud when you asked me last year. I'm like, as soon as I realized like, oh wow, like they're gonna introduce live streaming, and like that's gonna massively simplify it for a lot of churches getting set up. And the beauty of it is you got most churches, a majority, I don't know what the numbers are exactly, but a lot of churches use ProPresenter already. So it's like you're not like having to buy another live streaming software to do it. And it's like, yeah, ProPresenter, the price tag, $400, like that's not cheap for a lot of churches. And, but again, even I think it's worth it for just even the presentation solution that it is, even aside from the live streaming. So I don't know, so powerful. And again, guys, like I'm not not sponsored by Renewed Vision, even though I probably should be. I'm not. But these guys just are making a great tool. So,
so one of the things that has to do with pricing, if you actually go out and you compare pricing to, if you compare it to PowerPoint, obviously we lose on price alone, because PowerPoint is a one-time cost that's cheaper. But you can't do nearly as much, and it's not designed for churches and doesn't have database management and different things. So it's not nearly as capable. But if you compare it to Proclaim or Easy Worship, we actually end up being cheaper over time. So there is a pretty big upfront cost. I understand that, because you're paying for it to own it forever, even if you choose not to continue with ProPlus, but you own the software forever. Easy Worship, you pay a yearly fee, and that yearly fee is more expensive than ours and ends up being more expensive after about 6 years. Like you're paying more for theirs. And Proclaim, it's way more expensive if you're a larger church, even from the get-go. So it's just, I understand the pricing thing, but at the same time, if you calculate it over multiple years, you're saving money with ProPresenter. Plus, you're saving
but
the
Cody,
time
that would require me to do critical thinking and some math. That's expecting a little too much for me to make those.
I'm sorry about that.
No, but seriously, I see a lot of like, unfortunately, in the church worship tool environment, there can be some kind of short-sighted budgeting and capital allocation thinking when it comes to these things of like, another one I would think of is like renting all of your tracks, like with a rental program. I love multi-tracks. I think the rental program does fit in some scenarios, but I also think like it's like saying that's financially savvy thing to do compared to just actually a larger upfront cost. And then it's actually going to save you more to buy $30, $40 tracks in the short term but that's a whole other tangent. I'll make another video about that. But
Well, I had to have that same conversation with my pastor a few months ago because they were renting them, and I'm like, we're paying so much each month to rent tracks that we're never going to own, and we could do it forever. Or we could just buy these and own them.
Yeah, totally.
So,
So that's an interesting case study to consider whenever I make that video. But again, I love the products. Like I think it does serve a good purpose in certain situations. But when it comes to I would say one of the church at large's weaknesses and not very good at thinking, or it's not non-strengths, is definitely thinking longer term when it comes to budgetary things and financial allocation. But that's kind of a whole other tangent. The other questions I had. Oh, go ahead, Adam.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say along the lines of pricing, I think people are kind of curious how you came up with the pricing for including Resi with ProPresenter and kind of that, I don't know what you call it, plugin, the integration partnership.
Sure. So it's not included in any of our costs. Resi is a whole separate, like you're paying Resi for their part of the program, just kind of like you pay Song Select or Planning Center for their integrations. You're paying Resi for their integration. You're not paying us. And so, I mean, it would be cool if we could bundle it, but it's not our product. We're not selling our product. So it's someone else's product. And so they sell it for the amount that they think is a good price. And in my opinion, compared to the other industry standards, which are not Restream or Caster, those are completely different things. They're not similar to Resi in any shape or form. When you compare it to like the actual broadcast standards out there, they are cheaper.
Yeah.
And so the other thing to consider with Resi is churches spend $150 on donuts each week. That's more important to them than their online campus. That blows my mind.
Cody, but you're assuming that I'm gonna take time to look at my other budget line items for other purposes in the church and actually consider these things. I just see $139 a month of Resi, and I think it's the biggest ripoff in the world. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm being
Even though it does
facetious.
way more things than I need it to do, like change people's lives.
No, it's just funny because right now, okay, and I explain it to a church like this, like you have in-person worship gatherings and you have online worship gatherings, and whether you like it or not right now, especially in some churches where like in some states you can't even meet in person at all or whatever, like you have another piece of real estate that you have to pay for or like allocate resources to make possible. And that's why when I look at something like Resi and the reliability it brings, like imagine if like, I don't know, when we think about paying for, I think I said this in the first video about ProPresenter and Resi I made, but like, you know, we pay rent for our facilities or we pay mortgages on our facilities, and we kind of want to make sure we pay enough so that the building doesn't just randomly fall down on people inside the building during a worship service, right? Like we want to have a good quality product or service. Same thing for like your online congregation. It's like it's worth investing resources to something to just make sure it's going to be reliable, solid. It's again, it's like online real estate for your church. You know, it doesn't have to be Resi. It could even be Restream, or you can just do the RTMP code, whatever you want. Nobody's forcing you to buy Resi, but just like don't get so salty about it. Like when you look at the price, like it's actually, from someone who's been a Resi customer at our church at Mission Lakewood with a hardware encoder, it's been great because like it's automatic streaming and like it's never failed on us over a cellular network. Like I can only say good things about it. I don't even expect it to be 100% perfect, but that's often the way it tends to be. Even with ProPresenter, I will say, like even this week, you and I were chatting about some issues you guys are trying to figure out with like the audio delay and some of the ProPresenter audio issues that kinks you guys are working out. ProPresenter is not 100% perfect, but what I love about you guys is that you're like, you know what, we know it's not 100% perfect, but we're going to let our users help us make it perfect over time. And you don't like just sit around doing a firmware update every year or two. It's like you're doing a firmware updates like every week almost, it seems like, to get rid of all these bugs or add new features. I personally like that as a user. Like I think it's great. I feel like your development team is close to the actual users and what's going on. So all that said, I don't know. There's just,
I think that's what built that has what has built ProPresenter, Renewed Vision, all our products is we are in our user base. There's a lot of companies that they're just standoff companies that they just create a product, and it's a good product, don't get me wrong, but they're not involved at all. Like we have a user group with 30,000 people in it. So we daily are talking to them and finding out what's going on in their lives, trying to help them solve issues, to find better scenarios like for their equipment, like just help them. And that teaches us what they need too. And they tell us what they need. They're like, hey, I have a feature request. We put that feature request in, and then if we can get to it, we can get to it. But I mean, we're all about the community.
Yep. It's awesome. A couple questions I had about ProPresenter. One being the ProPlus subscription. So explain that to us. I think there's so many, like, I know it's new for you guys, so it's like with new things, there's always kind of like lots of stuff going on. And I see in Facebook groups, like, again, just people confused about it. So here's an opportunity. Just go ahead, and we got at least 200 people on the stream right now. Kind of unpack, what is it? What's the purpose? Why would someone want it?
Yeah. So ProPlus is a maintenance model. It's similar to when you have a maintenance on a printer or on other software like Sketch or Resolume. Some different software offers the same option. And so what it does is it allows you buy the product, you own it forever, but if you want to get updates after the first year, if you want to get feature updates, if you want to get bug fixes, if you want to get OS compatibility, and if you want to get support, then you maintain that software through a maintenance program. And so that's what that ProPlus is. It allows you to keep paying year for year, almost like a subscription, but that if you decide to leave your subscription, you still have your software.
Got it. So you can still have the software, it will still function, but let's say like if my ProPlus I think when you buy ProPresenter for the first year, you obviously get a year of it, right? Like
you get a year.
All the updates. Yep. At the end of the year, it still functions fully. Like there's no watermark. Like my license is still good. But you're saying any updates that come out after that, I basically, like, I'll stay on whatever. Like right now, I would stay on ProPresenter 7.4.1 or whatever's out now. Even if in a month from now 7.4.2 comes out, I won't have access to that unless if I have another ProPlus subscription, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, but it'll still be functional. So yeah, again, it's one of those deals where it's like, yeah, and I think someone could probably, you could probably get by fine for a few months or maybe a year on your, existing the 1 year without ProPlus. But the problem comes, right, when Mac updates its OS or something like that. And then if ProPresenter starts acting funky with an older version, what would happen there? Would someone like just have to update to the ProPlus at that point? Like, how would those issues be resolved?
Well, let's say that Mac OS Extreme comes out. That's the next version. Mm-hmm. It's not a mountain name or anything this time. Yeah. That comes out and your version doesn't work on that. Well, you would need to stay on the most recent version that does work for your OS and ProPresenter. You have a year after ProPlus runs out to renew, but you're going to be paying the full cost again that same date you renewed or bought the first time. So if you bought it, you say you bought it today, you bought ProPresenter today, you went out and bought it. Well, a year from now, if you don't renew, you still have up to a year from that point to renew. But if you renew in December of that next year, then you're going to pay full price a month later. So you're not saving any money to not renew. You're wasting your time at that point to have to wait.
Yeah.
So
my personal opinion. My personal opinion is you guys just have to jump on the software service subscription train like every other big software out there, and it's gonna make a lot of people angry, but ultimately it's gonna make everything simpler. I don't know. I like the idea of it's like monthly or annual subscription, and I know that I'm buying into this tool that it's always going to have development, always going to have updates. I personally think the the maintenance model is kind of confusing. Not my preference. I mean, I'll pay for it because I want the updates. But I think like if I were in your guys' shoes, I mean, again, I know it's easier said than done. But and like Adobe had to do this with their Creative Suite a couple of years ago, right? And now it's great because their user base loves Adobe still, and as a company they're doing great. But I don't know. That's just my 2 cents there.
Yeah.
You pass that along
No, I
to
understand.
your COO or CEO, so whoever it is.
Yeah, we had a comment, same thing, make ProPresenter monthly subscription. It'll be easy for us. So,
Well, yeah, because I think you do have, honestly, I think at first it would be kind of, you'd probably have both models, and then you'd have to like, you'd probably do this like, people can pick or choose, and then eventually you just kind of phase
Yeah.
out the other model. You know, because at the point it kind of becomes like, well, why isn't it just like, because what's the Pro Plus thing? Is it 200 a year or something like that?
159, maybe 139.
Yeah. Or you just
But it would be
get
more expensive if you did a subscription. So we factored in the fact that you're paying for it up front for the initial license. So
Well,
if we
that's
had a
what I mean.
subscription, you would be
That's-
paying more for it. per year.
I think you should. Again, I'm just thinking out loud, and I just like thinking about this stuff. I don't know if the 200 people listening to this thinks this is interesting, but I like thinking about this type of stuff as a business guy. But I think you like for people who've already bought the license, you kind of honor the maintenance plan or whatever. But then maybe for like new customers or something, you could start the new subscription model or something like that. I don't know. Like that's how I would think about it, but I'm not the one in making those decisions, obviously. So I make those decisions about Churchfront stuff, and that's fine. But
Yeah. Well, it's definitely something that we've talked about and are talking about is like, what does that look like in the future? So
yeah. Feel free if they want to consult me, I'll gladly offer my very limited business consulting savvy there. But the other question I had, serious, this was actually one I think people would be definitely more relevant to the listeners, is ProPresenter when it comes to cloud sharing and syncing your repositories and stuff like that. I think that's one of my things. My dream for ProPresenter is if there was, I know it's not a cloud-based app where like Proclaim is a cloud-based app. But I think there's pros and cons to that. And with ProPresenter, I think there's been some confusion for people trying to like sync ProPresenter files across different computers if they have like, you know, a pastor or someone at home prepping documents and then wanting to sync with their computer. So what's the best solution for that? Like, and will we ever see cloud syncing built? I know ProPresenter used to have it and now they don't. Will it ever come back? Yeah.
Yeah. With ProPresenter 7, we wanted to make sure when we introduce cloud syncing that it's better than it was in Pro 6. Mm-hmm. So we heard from our users that they didn't like the reliability or the way it was in Pro 6. And so we knew that we had to come out with something extremely better. Mm-hmm. And there was no way we could have done that by this point. And so it potentially could happen in the future or near future, but it's definitely something that we're looking at and something we'd love to do. But I can't make a promise because we haven't announced that feature or anything like that yet. But in the meantime, for those who do want to sync with computers that are remote or just an alternate computer to use, their pastor's computer, their computer at home, whatever, the best solution if you want a cloud experience is to sync using the sync function of ProPresenter to a Dropbox, a Google Drive, a OneDrive, and then when you're at the other computer, sync it back to ProPresenter's library. So it's not good to keep your library on Google Drive or OneDrive or Dropbox because you can have issues where the files don't download correctly or where another computer is accessing them and your computer that's presenting can't access those files correctly. And so it's never a good idea to have your library on those services. But it is a good idea to sync manually using the sync button to sync down to, or sync up, I guess you're syncing up to the cloud. So sync up to Google Drive and then sync back down to ProPresenter when you're on the other computer.
Okay.
Yeah, you would say to,
okay.
I was going to say, when I was talking to someone else, they said to make sure that Dropbox or Google Drive is not running while you're using ProPresenter, right? Like you only would open Google Drive or Dropbox when you want to sync.
You would do that if you had the library stored there, which we would never say is a good idea. It's going to cause you so many headaches, and that's when we have users contact us saying they have problems. Just don't do things that aren't recommended.
I'm pretty sure I've done that. I'm pretty sure I've done that though for like 4 years, and I've never had issues.
Yeah, but then you will, and then when it does happen, it sucks because then all of a sudden you can't access your files in the middle of service and you have an issue. That's
But why
the issue.
would it?
So
Maybe why would it? Can't I just like pause syncing on Dropbox or something?
yeah, but I'm just saying that we're a large company and we see this happen all the time, and so we don't recommend doing it.
So you say library files. Okay, so put your library repository on a local hard drive on the computer. Oh, can you hear me?
So I was talking about my beard.
Oh yeah, it's a very nice beard. So so you're saying put your files on a local hard drive then on the computer.
I'm saying your ProPresenter library should be on your local computer.
Okay, but then syncing. Where does Google Drive come into play? Because usually when you sync to Google Drive or Dropbox or whatever, it's got to be like in the Dropbox folder for it to actually do.
Do you want me to show you?
Yes, show me. Why don't we do that? Why don't we use the wonderful technology that we have here? Cody's screen. There we go. Oh, I lost your screen. You'll have to share it again. Oh, there we go.
Okay.
There we go. Cool. Show
All
us.
right. So if I wanted to sync my library or just specific songs, I could choose that. So I'm going to go ProPresenter, Preferences, Sync. So now here's where I can choose where I want it to sync to, and I can choose what I want it to sync.
Yep.
So I'm gonna create a folder in my Google Drive or Dropbox or whatever. I have OneDrive here.
Oh, you guys.
I'm not gonna create a folder.
Microsoft?
No, that's my personal stuff. I love Microsoft. And then I would include what I wanted. So if I want my library of content, if I want my playlists or my themes, support files would be like your screen configuration information.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would choose sync file up to repository, so that the repository being OneDrive currently for me, that's what's selected.
Okay.
So then once it's synced, all these things would remember this for next time. So I would just click sync and it would be done. And then I would go to the other computer and I would just click sync files down, sync, and then it's done.
But then on that other computer, though, are you having to move? I guess I'm just kind of not tracking 100%.
I think on the other computer, it would also be locally stored on, like you'd have your.
So all of your files would be local.
Yeah.
So
but are you
have OneDrive or
are you physically going into Finder and dragging repository out of Google OneDrive and then onto the computer's documents and then making changes and going back? Like that's what I'm confused at right now.
No, it's going to sync the files down to your ProPresenter library. So it's going to sync them out of Google Drive down to your local library if it's in your documents or whatever.
Okay.
So you don't have to drag anything in. You just go find that Google Drive folder or whatever it is, and then you click sync files down, and it brings it down.
Looking at your ProPresenter project right now, on your computer, where are you storing all of your documents and such? On this the computer you're on right now. Okay, documents/ProPresenter. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And then documents. Okay.
So if I go to my Finder and go to Documents, ProPresenter, all my files are in there.
Okay. So I'm just looking at my computer and seeing what I did here. So
Cody, with the replace my files, I noticed you didn't check that. Would you recommend checking that so that, like, say your pastor does their sermon and then he syncs and then you're like, okay, I'm going to sync on my end. Wouldn't you want to replace it if you had like started it for him or something?
Yeah, if you already had the files in there, you don't want to replace them. I didn't click it, but yes, that'd be a great option if you already have that file existing and you just want to replace it, or if you don't know what you're replacing, but you for sure want to. If you don't know what you have in your library, but you know all the stuff in your other library is the newer stuff, then you're going to want to replace it.
Yeah. Yeah, I know a church that, like, in my area has like 7-8 campuses. Like they're like, okay, I'm sending it over Dropbox, sync it, and then just replace all the files. So like in your ProPresenter playlist, they still have 6, but it's like in the playlist, it's, okay, announcements, like all the announcements are updated because we replaced the file instead of adding another one. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, if
Like
you replaced it would just update them with the newer stuff. Otherwise, if you don't have replace, it will add a new version that you could choose between.
Okay, so.
But it's easier than if you, like, the other option is you just export stuff to Google Drive and then you manually download it and then you put it in whatever folders it's supposed to be in. This just makes it easier so that you don't have to do all that.
I'm going to still go use my renegade approach where all of my ProPresenter files live in Dropbox.
Okay.
And then I'm just going to, it still works for me at least. But no, because I'm just like, I just want like.
Not approved.
Not approved, not a ProPresenter approved, but I don't know, it works. We haven't had any major issue. Maybe like, yeah, I don't know. I'm just really confused now. I'm gonna spend some time looking into this stuff and figure out I don't even know what I'm doing, but it works. It's like I know if I need to pull up ProPresenter files on another computer, it somehow just works. So
that's good. Are you using iCloud too? Because that's even worse.
No, not iCloud. No, I really like. Dropbox, I feel like, is like the golden standard of file sharing made easy. It just works. Like as long as you have good internet, it just works fine. And like I've been really happy with it over the years. But I do know I guess I've seen some conflicts before in ProPresenter where like if you update a document, like then Dropbox like makes another one. It's like ProPresenter's like there's a conflicting document. It's like what's going on here? Like I do remember that. I haven't seen it lately, though. I haven't had that problem lately for some reason. So, I don't know. It just works.
There's someone that doesn't like my answers. And I have to say, I'm not support. That's why my answers are bad. They're like, imagine speaking with support. Well, support is going to be way better than me. I'm just the marketing guy. I know how to make things look pretty.
Yeah, Cody's just the marketing guy, guys. Come on. Take it easy. Just kidding. They're not. No. Yeah.
I've never had a bad experience with ProPresenter.
Yeah.
Our support team is the highest rated of any of the presentation softwares, and I understand if someone has a bad experience, and I'm sorry about that, but that is not normal. And feel free to email me and complain because I don't want that experience to be your experience. There's a reason we're the highest rated.
But you guys are supposed to be perfect. No problems at all. It's not like you guys are like a human institution or something where things fall through the cracks or whatever. But
yeah. And someone said they have a better experience with Microsoft. I mean, they have billions of dollars, so I don't know what to tell you. Like I'm sorry. We try really hard to do our best, and we go above and beyond to help people, even when we aren't expected to. And so, I mean, I'm sorry that if you had a bad experience, if you commented. I think there's like 2 people out of the 200 that have complained on this chat, but.
No, don't. Yeah, don't stress over it. ProPresenter, you guys are awesome. Like I said, I love the biggest thing I love is how you're like, hey, we're gonna roll these features out as quickly as possible, and we're gonna fix bugs as quickly as possible. I would just much rather prefer that. I prefer a ProPresenter that glitches once in a while. It's kind of funny. Usually when it's glitching, it's like it's never mid-service. It's like usually when I'm setting up something new or whatever. Yeah. It's not like during the service. Like I've actually had a miraculous reliability from that standpoint. And if it's ever failed mid-service, it's actually more kind of a result of the computer that it's running on more than the actual software. But usually it's like I'm in the office, I'm just trying to learn how to do some new stuff, setting up new features, and that's when I break it, right? And it's like, okay, when I was at Life Church, they gave me some stickers, and I think they said like keep calm and reboot. Like that's the saying for all worship tech ministries everywhere. Just stay calm and reboot it, whatever it is, and that will 99% of the time solve an issue. But
I'm a huge fan of, so if something is going to go wrong, it's usually going to go wrong because of different things that were clicked in a different order during editing. And then it may not show up until you are in service because it's been on for 3 hours and you did this thing way back a long time ago.
Yep.
And so that's when it crashes, because it just decided, okay, well, you've clicked it enough times that it's done the wrong thing, and we're going to crash now. So I've always found that it's not a bad idea to restart it. I mean, restart it before you start service, because then you don't have all those random clicks that you did that were in the editor and different things. And obviously, if someone knows what happened to cause that crash, what click they did that caused that crash, then we can track that and we can fix that. And we do fix it. Most of the things that get taken to our support are fixed within a month and sent out to as an update within a month. So most known bugs. Other bugs, sometimes take longer to fix because it's a complicated thing. We're programmers, we have to learn how to do it. But we have a very fast turnaround rate, and we can do that now with ProPlus. We can turn things around right away.
Yeah, and even speaking of known bugs, like this is, again, the one we were talking about yesterday, Cody, and I'm talking to one of your great support team members about it. But it was kind of funny. I don't know why when I was like on the call with you, Cody, like we couldn't narrow down what the issue was, but now I can like consistently reproduce the issue. If I go to my screen right here, I'll show you guys. So I was working in ProPresenter, and like I said, I'm diving into all the live streaming capability. And the problem was right now, the bug right now is with the audio input. If you apply delay to your audio device, which you often need to do with live streaming software, 99% of the time, your video source is always going to be, I usually find in my case, it's like 100 milliseconds behind the audio source. Is like audio usually just always has less latency. So I had applied delay here, and that was causing a bug where my audio was inputting stereo feed, but then when it was going through ProPresenter's audio channels, it would be stereo for a few seconds, and then it would just cut to like a mono, and you only heard it on one side. So that's an example where I then contacted Cody first, and he's like, send this to support. And I did. And then
I'm not support.
Cody's not support. But anyways, and then we talked about it with support, and then it's a known issue, and they're working on it. But one of the nice things about it, if you guys are trying to get live streaming with ProPresenter up and running now, is in most cases, like if you're using like an X32, you can actually delay your audio output from a mix bus from the board itself, so that you can just do the delay compensation there instead of having to do it in ProPresenter. So that's my temporary workaround to solving that type of issue. And a lot of you guys could do the same. So,
all right,
cool.
Well, we've kind of jumped around a lot, but we were supposed to be talking about live streaming. But going back to my setup, we have the two computers, and one of the reasons that Cody's not support. Yeah, thank you. One of the reasons that we're using the two computers isn't because ProPresenter couldn't handle the live streaming and the lyrics at the same time. Like I said, I've done that at a previous church, and we did it just fine. But we're running Light Key, we're running Logic, we're running ProPresenter for live streaming and ProPresenter for in-stream content with a stage screen, an audience screen, a live stream screen, an NDI screen. It's just, we're at a whole other level in terms of complexity and how many different apps are running, that I thought it would be best just to break it out, even for the other software's sake.
Totally.
Having Logic and Light Key and everything.
Totally.
So that was kind of our idea.
So you said, wait, the computer on the left is doing Light Key, or
Light Key and content.
And content, and then your computer are you doing Logic on the same computer as
yes,
the stream? Okay, that makes sense. Are you just going to use like
and then we have
I see Loopback right here. Is that what that is?
Yep, we got Loopback, and then I have an iPad that someone can use to mix Logic.
I see your apps, bro. I can zoom in and out of this.
How are you pulling camera feeds in? Like, how are you getting it to the computer?
So we have a one camera setup right now, and we're using an Ultra Studio 3G, the little mini box that they got.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it brings SDI into.
That actually brings up some other.
You could plug two of those in, couldn't you? You could plug two of those little boxes, and then you could have two cameras.
Yep. Or you could use a DeckLink card and bring 4 or 8 inputs in, or you can use the ATEM Mini and just do all your switching into the switcher.
That's a good idea, Jake. Write that down.
You write it down. I'm navigating. I'm video
kidding.
directing. I'm video directing right now.
You just described the setup that you showed earlier.
My setup?
Yeah, with the ATEM Mini Pro.
Yeah, no, I think it's gonna be great. Okay, what are these drum baffles from? What are those called?
They're called drum baffles.
Simple baffle.
What are you
Like,
talking about?
do you know, like, did you make them or did you buy them from someone?
No, we bought them.
Okay.
So there's actually lots of companies that make them now, but
Okay.
there was a Christian guy, Christian drummer who I think he played for um, I don't know, some big band, and I think he was one of the first people that made them, and I forget his name, but he sells
Okay.
them.
Cool.
They're not too bad, and they actually help a ton because the cymbals are the biggest reason that you have noise complaints because the high end frequencies that run from them, and
Yep.
so it just pushes it back instead of bouncing
Well,
it
and it's
forward.
nice. What's nice about these high school big stages is they're pretty. I feel like they can absorb quite a bit of sound too. Like, and it looks like a pretty good sized stage as well. But cool guys. Well, are you running an X32 at front of house? What are you doing for sound? Is
Yeah,
that what
it's
that is?
X32 rack.
Okay. Yep. Nice. And then you just have but this is kind of convenient. Your tech booth's back here, so you don't have to set up a tech booth back in the room. And then your sound guy uses an iPad.
Yep. Our sound guy uses an iPad, and then we have an iPad there for our DAW. But also, we wanted to have direct internet if possible, and the school actually gave us internet access for Facebook, and so we have a plugin right on stage.
Nice.
So it made sense for us to have all that on stage. Plus, it's super convenient. We just set it up. We don't have to run things along cables, and yeah.
Yep. Makes sense. Okay, so the other day, and this we could kind of move into our gear segment, but the other thing that I think people need to be aware of, that this is something that I think you guys could just want more people be aware of your little hardware store here. So right now, I think people are kind of like, they get into live streaming, they get ProPresenter, and they're like, then they look at their fancy new MacBook Pro, and all they see are like two little Thunderbolt ports on it, and they're like, how am I supposed to get HDMI from my laptop to my 5 different screens I've got to set up, right? And that's like, a problem. It's like this, and this is when I made the video about the deck link setup about almost a year ago now, because I was trying to solve this issue, and I cannot stand dongles, even though we'll be talking about some dongles later on. But I don't know if you guys poke around on Renewed Vision's site here. You can see some of these, like, they have these, like, you guys are a dealer, I guess, for some Blackmagic products. This one, I actually bought this HD Mini the other day, and it kind of let me down. I thought I was getting something different than it actually was. Not the 4K, the HD Mini right here. Because when I look at these and I'm reading, okay, you can key your module for key and fill outputs. I thought I would have two like unique video screen outputs with this guy, rather than, but when I plugged it in, I went to ProPresenter, it only gave me one video display output. I don't know. Have you had have you had much experience with this guy?
I haven't, but I'm pretty sure it only does one output, and then it does two if you're doing
Key and
fill. If you do alpha key, yeah.
But that just confused me, because I was like, well, if it can do alpha key with two, why can't it do?
I don't know.
But
I don't think that's a limitation of ProPresenter. I think that's
no, it's not. I'm not saying it's a limitation of ProPresenter. I was just saying, because here's what I think the market needs, and maybe I need to tell Blackmagic this. Okay, so a DeckLink Duo setup. I don't think the market really needs the $714 setup here, even though it's great. I think we need, like, they need to make like even a 2 output DeckLink Duo, thing or something like that. It's like maybe somewhere around like $300 ish or something like that, or $350, where someone could have Thunderbolt to like either 2 HDMI's or SDI outputs or something like that for their in-person screens. I think that would make life easier for many people.
Yeah. But I will say that if you're trying to get more screens, and we were talking earlier about like what are some cool features of ProPresenter that aren't as well known. At our school, we have our stage monitor is not actually a physical screen output on our Mac Mini. So we only have 2 screen outputs on a Mac Mini, unless you're using the DeckLink Duo to get around it, or some DisplayLink cards, which, I mean, they run off CPU and they're not as good. So I recommend using the DeckLink if you're going to do it. But regardless, we're using just the HDMI out to go to our operator's monitor, because it's a Mac Mini, so we have to have a monitor. And then we're using a USB-C to HDMI to our projector. So those are the only things we're using that are physically output. And then we're using the Stage app on an Apple TV for our confidence monitor. So that sits right in front of the stage. It's wireless. I don't even have an Ethernet cord run to it, and it works flawlessly.
Do you have so on Apple? You guys developed an app that runs on Apple TV?
Yeah, the Stage app. So you can look at stage displays.
That's what I mean, dude. I didn't even know that exists. Like, that's what I was telling about. Like, you really don't. You guys don't even know. Like, I feel like you guys are so in it that you don't realize, like, there's guys like me. I've been using ProPresenter for like 10 years, and like I did not know there was that app. So someone in marketing needs to get on that.
But you could actually, correct me if I'm wrong, like if you wanted to, you could have like a couple iPads on stage and people could all be connected to that, like see the same thing.
Yeah. You could have iPads on stage. That's for the Stage app. Scroll down. So I think you're looking at the remote app. On the screen. So there's the Stage app. I guess it doesn't actually show you an image of it, but that shows you the devices it's on.
Yeah.
But you can choose a specific stage screen to view, or you can have it follow ProPresenter if you want. So whatever ProPresenter's looks are triggering, it can follow, or you can have a specific stage screen set up on there.
That is so cool.
But I think it's super beneficial for a setup like us.
Secrets, any other secrets you're hiding from us, Cody, about what ProPresenter can do?
Listen, I've only been here for a year and a half, so in terms of that not being known, I'm trying to figure out what's not known and share about it. So this isn't a secret, but this is something that I went live on our ProPresenter users group about a month ago or 2 months ago. We did a baptism at our church, and so we wanted to get that on our projector, and we also wanted to get it on our live stream, but it was going to be off to the side of our room. It wasn't going to be on our stage. We just didn't want to get water everywhere. We had a lot of electronics on stage. It's a small stage. So we needed some way to capture that video and put it on our projector and put it on our live stream kind of remotely. So, in a lot of large churches, they'll go around before service and they'll have like their pre-service like campus live stream video thing. And it looks super cool. And they're like talking about like, hey, welcome to church. We're so glad to have you here. And it's like out in their lobby. Lots of small churches can't afford all of the wiring and massive cameras and different inputs around their building to do that sort of cool thing. But if you download a NDI camera app on your iPhone, you can use this as your remote camera. And you can even grab audio from it if you wanted to.
Wow.
So what we did was I took this and used this for our baptism video. Actually, I used an iPad. Same thing. Put up an iPad right next to our baptismal, captured the video over NDI. I actually was wireless for that. Didn't even use a wire. Sent
so
that
they
to
just
our
have to be on
and our live stream.
Same Wi-Fi network, and that's it, or network in general. Yeah, that's cool. That's another great secret for telling us what ProPresenter can do. No, it's just like stuff like that, and a lot of it you don't think about it until you're in that situation, and then you start thinking about, okay, what can I do with the tool like ProPresenter, and like how can its features do it? That's how I come across the majority of these features, is just like how to do X with ProPresenter, and then you start searching it and looking for it. It's like, oh, it has that perfect feature built right in. So someone thought about this already. That's awesome, man. Awesome. Well, Adam, do you have any more ProPresenter related questions directly while we have him here to grill him?
No, man. I think you kind of talked about it earlier, and I said that the big thing I'm working on is the different looks. So I guess just for my sake, with the text link between, say you've got like your main screen, it's just like, I want this text to look a certain way. Like in our example for the sermon, we want a point to be on lower third for the stream, but then we want a point to be centered. Like, how do I know that the text is linked between the two different looks?
So whatever text is on your main screen is automatically going to be the text that's pulling to your other screen if you're using a look. So if you put a theme on that presentation layer, if you choose a theme, it's just pulling from that text that's on your main screen.
Oh, okay.
That make sense?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
if you have just...
Yeah, I didn't know if it was like Bibles where it's like you pick this is the scripture and this is the reference text box. And
so with Bibles, I would recommend creating a lower third theme that has your reference box and your verse. And then I would have a similar theme on your main screen that has a reference box and a verse box. That way in your theme, you can do linked text as what you're pulling from. And you can select, I want to pull from my reference and I want to pull from my my verse. So that way that they do line up the text in the correct boxes on your alternative theme.
Yep.
Yeah.
One thing I thought about, Cody, is I think there needs to be more, and I think, Adam, we could develop more training in worship ministry school around this, but pastors who are prepping sermon slides really need to start using ProPresenter like natively to start editing their slides. I know pastor I've worked with, he just likes using Canva and all that stuff, but it's like for a lot of these features, if they're just giving me JPEG files to work with, like it makes it significantly more complicated for some of these examples that we're talking about right here to be able to actually utilize looks to its fullest potential. It's just nice when all the slide content is native in ProPresenter, then you can start formatting it on different screens however you want. It's going to be a lot easier. So that's just another thought that occurred to me. What's that?
ProPresenter for pastors.
ProPresenter for pastors. Your worship leader will love you for it. It doesn't make sense to use something like Keynote or PowerPoint because ProPresenter is your Keynote. It is your PowerPoint. It has a full-blown editor inside of it. But Cody, you're assuming that I'm thinking logically about the tools we use for our worship production and that I understand that. We can't assume that with a lot of pastors, or again, they don't want to change, right? I've been making my sermon slides for 30 years in PowerPoint. Yeah. Don't make me change the dang ProPresenter. I'm going to fire you,
But it looks the same.
Leader.
Go look at the editor. If you've ever used Keynote,
no, it's better.
To Keynote.
It's better. It's like, dude, your guys' editor, like ProPresenter is like almost, it's like, now that I think about it, I should even be prepping all of my presentations anyways in ProPresenter. Like, I don't even know why I use Keynote anymore, other than, again, it's what I'm used to, right? Man.
Let me show you my screen here real quick. Let me edit my slide, make sure I have the right thing in here.
Oh, your screen. I guess I'm
video
director on duty. Okay, let me find my okay. No, I don't see your screen. You keep taking your screen away. All right, there we go. No, that's not your screen. That's Adam's screen. There we go.
All right. Do you see these graphics for our pre-service loop here?
Yeah, you made those in ProPresenter.
Not Photoshop.
Not Photoshop. No, I know, right? It's so much easier than Photoshop.
Let me look at this. Edit slide.
Yeah.
Click on picture.
Yeah.
Objects equals layers.
Oh, yeah. So I have this media filled in here. It's set to scale to fill. So it's actually a 3x2 image, but it's cropping to the square that I want it to crop into. And then I have this text with the fill box behind it. I have this opacity layer to make my images all look nice and dark. All of this, all my borders were created using ProPresenter. Like I got a stroke here. It's just with a white on the inside. I mean, all of that
so good.
I didn't mean to cut out of that.
Yeah, you cut right to me, man. Come on. There we go. No, but that's...
So yeah.
Are you using Greycliff there?
What?
What's the font you're using?
That was Visual Media Church's worship font, I think.
Oh, okay.
Just all these bold modern fonts kind of look the same. They look good though. I like it. Okay, I did have another question. This is why I like this format with Adam on here too, and we both ask you questions. So then when he asks you a question, I can actually think of another good one. So help us understand if I want to ease the load of my computer's graphics to output screens, getting like an external GPU versus a DeckLink Duo, what's the difference between those two computationally?
Okay. The DeckLink Duo is not an external GPU.
Okay. What is it?
It's just an output device. So it takes your current GPU and makes use of that.
Okay.
An eGPU is it's an external graphics processing unit. So it doesn't use your built-in one. But on Mac, it's really more beneficial on lots of PCs because PC allows you to make use of the Thunderbolt buses more apparently, and so that it can actually use your CPU and not have to go back and forth. But on Mac, for some reason, it has to like go back and forth multiple times, which can cause issues if you're using an eGPU between like your CPU, your eGPU, back. I don't know what the whole process is, but we don't recommend using it with a device that has a screen built in. So an iMac or MacBook Pro, because
eGPUs.
Then yes. Because it's rendering all of your stuff to the eGPU, then going back to your CPU, then going back out, and it's a complicated mess, and it causes issues. Okay. So we only recommend it really for the Mac Mini, and it does help. I mean, I've seen lots of people say on the users group that they've added an eGPU in the minis, and the cheaper minis that have like an i5, and it's helped them a ton.
Yeah. So the DeckLink isn't really easing the processing load at all for the computer.
It eases the processing load by offloading the outputs, but it doesn't actually do any of the processing of the graphic content.
But at this point, when you're just doing 1080p outputs from the computer, it's probably not that intensive, especially on these new chips. Like I feel like if it's offloading,
you could easily do 41080p.
Yeah, right. That's plenty.
With
power.
With the M1, you can at least do 41080p, probably a lot more. Okay.
Yeah, but if we got to like some reason doing a bunch of 4K outputs, then it's going to be a different story. But still, as of 2021, we're pretty much always just outputting 1080p for in-person displays and online.
There is rarely ever a reason to output 4K. No one can see the difference on a stage to an audience. Yep. It's just your eyes don't work that way. And as much as we like them in our houses because they upscale things and make things look more detailed, that's not how it works for an audience. And so there's almost never a reason.
Yep. Cool. Well, that clarifies it. So if I get an eGPU for my a Mac Mini, you're saying it's still the Mac Mini, like, does it have to choose, like in the Mac Mini system preferences, do I select like, okay, computer, use this external GPU or use your internal one, or it's not going to use both?
It's not going to use both. It's only going to use your eGPU. And I do think you need to make sure it is set to use that. Otherwise, I don't even think it uses it correctly. So I think there's a setting in there that you have to go to and say, always use this GPU. Like, don't switch.
Got it.
Oh, hey, I thought of a question as Jake was asking his.
This is why I like this.
Yeah. So something that was happening
My
to me
question time was over.
Nope.
No. So Cody, I know that you're on the support team. So my question is, when I unplug certain monitors, like this might just be an Apple thing, but you might know, like when I unplug monitors, it like loses where it's, it like just automatically mirrors all the displays instead of saving the configuration I want.
Are you talking about ProPresenter on the Mac?
On the Mac. So it's like, ProPresenter actually sticks. It says like, okay, this was going to this display,
right.
But then like if I unplug one, they all mirror, and then it goes to 60 hertz, and it needs to be 30 to communicate with Blackmagic.
That shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a driver. Are you using some sort of dongle on your Mac and running out all your screens through that? Maybe that's
It's only like one display is running on the local. I didn't expect because you're not support, but I just thought if you did.
I also don't work for Apple.
Yeah. Are you sure? Because Jake was asking Blackmagic design questions earlier. We just thought you knew everything.
That's the assumption, right? Like these products work with our software or our software works on them. So we have to know everything about all of these different softwares and all these different hardwares, and everyone thinks we know everything about everything.
Yeah.
And we try, we try to learn it for sure. But
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
I will, if I figure it out, I'll share with the Churchfront community.
Okay.
But
I don't think that should be happening though. I think that sounds like an issue that's happening.
yeah, and it's not necessarily on the ProPresenter end. Like once I get them the actual displays themselves configured, then it just like recognizes where it was supposed to go. So
Someone did comment and say the MacBook Air doesn't have a powerful enough CPU to encode a stream, but the new ones definitely do. The old ones, I would say, yeah, I would never have streamed with an old MacBook Air, but I never had good experiences with old MacBook Airs because they had like a low-powered Intel processor. But the new ones, I mean, we're literally streaming from a Mac Mini M1, like a $899 computer. We're streaming like 1080p 60 content with no problem, lots of room. So
Awesome. I was just looking at our stream on my other computer and it was buffering. I don't know if it's working for you guys fine, but that's why we use Resi for most things. Oh, there we go. Okay, it works on my phone. Just making sure it didn't completely crash. Well, guys, I think that ends the grilling Cody segment. It only lasted an hour and 11 minutes, but we're not done with the Churchfront show here. Just a reminder, a word from our sponsors, not Renewed Vision, not ProPresenter, but Worship Ministry School. Go to worshipministryschool.com if you want to learn how to become a ProPresenter ninja and learn how to set ProPresenter up for live streaming, for displays with your DeckLink Duo. You can, work wonders with it. So we've got a whole course on it. Of course, a bunch of other things as well. Go to worshipministryschool.com, click Get Started, apply to be on a strategy session today. And speaking of Worship Ministry School, I wanted to share this cool story of one of our students, Patrick. He signed up last year. Right before he just got hired on at a new church, and he's down in Florida. And like he got hired on his new church, at a new church, and then they're also like, hey, we're also going to do a complete worship sanctuary renovation. So congrats, you get to kind of lead that project. And what was cool is, at Worship Ministry School, Churchfront, we are not integrators. Like we know integrators, we can recommend some. We are not integrators ourselves. We're not the one who's going to come and install stuff. We can help you really install a lot of things by yourself, especially kind of the micro infrastructure of worship ministry. Oh, that's cool. It's like a 3D photo. I wonder if it's going to work. Yeah. So, but we can also kind of be another, give it another perspective when you're about to go work with an integrator to make sure that everything the integrators are recommending are actually going to be useful and relevant for your worship ministry. So this is their new space. Look at the nice line arrays they've got. I think he installed the M32 for mixing. They're running tracks, all that stuff. We helped Patrick implement tracks for the first time in in-ears. He had so much new things going on. I actually got a video I'll probably be sending out pretty quickly to our email list that Patrick made for us. But they've got a really cool design here. It's like, just modern but tasteful. It's like still feels like a church. I'm a big fan of it. So props to Patrick and all the work he's been doing. It's been fun to have him in the program. So that brings us to our next segment of the show, which is new gear time. Adam, I'll let you take the lead of the new devices that we're making note of here. So what do we got?
Yeah. So this first thing, I literally saw a Facebook ad for it. And as it came in, it was like, so it's this like VST, or like a virtual instrument, and you can just like pick different shaker patterns. And I was thinking about like for all these churches that are doing not, they don't have a drummer, but they still want like some sort of percussion thing. Like you can literally like pick like all these different instruments, all these different patterns as far as like how it shakes. And I haven't used it, but I imagine like you just throw it in Ableton and, you can trigger it to start and stop, during certain parts.
A banana shaker? What was that?
Yeah, man, they got all sorts of wacky wacky things in here, different snaps and claps and, you know, claves and tambourine. Like, yeah, just
That's pretty
a
cool.
bunch of different things. And I imagine it being like, okay, like we're doing just acoustic guitar and like maybe bass or keyboard or something, but we want something to kind of keep it moving along.
Mhm.
Like I feel like this would feel like it would give some structure, but it wouldn't be like, why are there fake drums playing in the
Yep.
background? You know what I mean?
Yep.
So that was one cool thing. If anyone decides to give it a shot and, you know, has a video of it, definitely share it with us. I think it would
That's
be
awesome.
a cool way to integrate that. This is your link. I haven't actually looked at it yet.
Yeah, it was this guy, the Worship Portal YouTube channel. So I'll come across random YouTube channels or they get recommended to me. And I saw he's just making a ton of instrumental tracks in different keys so that if churches need like to just sing along with something, you know, they can. Disclaimer, I don't know the copyright implications of playing these things in church and all that, so I'll just put that out there. I just think it's a cool YouTube channel. I mean, of course, the YouTube's cool because you can, you know, it pays out royalties or whatever to the artists who wrote the songs. But I think he's got other cool stuff though about building tracks. I think for songs and yeah, just want to give a shout out to another YouTuber. So check that out if you guys want some of those resources there. Yeah, trying to look through just lots of song tracks. I did not look through, you know, that thoroughly through all these things. Anytime we recommend something here, it's like literally I see it, it's like, oh, that's cool, and we'll put it on the list for the show. So don't be like, oh, Churchfront gave us this 100% approval, we should go buy this now. Like anything, like what Adam just shared, anything we shared, man, sometimes I got to be careful about just things I mentioned. People are like, oh, Jake gave it its full blessing, let's go do it. It's like, no, like do your own research, make sure it's like appropriate. But all that said, I think that's a cool resource. It's a cool channel. Go check them out. What else do we got here, Adam?
The Thunderbolt dock, which I
Yeah.
don't know if it's released yet or if
You
it's
sent
just
this to
pre-ordered.
me. Yeah.
Yep.
So that's this. If I have one big beef with the new Max, M1 Max, is that you only have 2 Thunderbolt ports, which is not enough. So this is a cool dock that, okay, so it's got its own power supply, so it's not going to be like sapping a bunch of power from your computer. And then you get 3 additional ports. This is literally exactly what I need for my desktop setup right now. But then I think a lot of churches that are doing, you know, leveraging Thunderbolt connectivities could also benefit from this as well for your like
That's
tech
sweet.
booth computer. So yeah.
Same price as the CalDigit TS3.
Yep. But better connectivity. Right?
Yep.
At this point, I'd rather have more, like the CalDigit has like a display port on the back of it. It's like, who uses display port for anything? It's just
Yeah.
like, give me a couple more HDMI's or something like that, or I don't know. I think it's a great dock. And then, okay, so this brings us to the next little dock by CalDigit. This is the one that I just ordered it. Yeah, I just ordered this. Yeah, last purchased on January 25th. So this could actually be interesting, Cody, I think, for some people's ProPresenter setups, Thunderbolt to 2 HDMI's. You know, and then the USBs, I don't know how the reviews I was reading. I really bought this for the HDMI. I don't need it for the USBs.
Yeah, they
But I
look
just-
kind of iffy.
Yeah. Well,
They're-
I think.
they're-
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say they say USB 3 and USB 2 on them, which is interesting.
Yeah. Well, I think they like. When I was reading the reviews, people said the HDMI work great, but the USB 3 are just for like power, not even data. So it's like, well, that's kind of pointless. But who knows? I'm gonna give it a try. I literally got to take it out of the box and plug it into the Mac Mini. And you know, again, this is me trying to figure out a setup for like if someone has one Mac Mini to run the live stream with an ATEM in ProPresenter, and then also have 2 more outputs for their in-person congregation and stage display. It's kind of the goal there, but that's that. Chipper, we just ordered him some headphones. Not sure why he picked these ones, but they look comfy. They're also
They do.
they're also reasonably budget friendly. So he's, you know, He edits a lot with headphones on. He actually prefers over the ears when he's editing for a long time versus in ears for comfort reasons. So we just ordered some of these. I think we ordered actually a demo version because these ones were out of stock. But we picked up some of those. So they're probably cool. Chipper could probably say why they're better, why they're cooler than I am. But I realized we should start a new segment of the show where it's just like we look at our Amazon and Sweetwater order history, and then we just like go through that. That's basically what this is right now.
You know what? I almost ordered pool noodles yesterday because I'm moving, and I was going to cut a slit down it and then put it around our mirrors for pack.
Yeah,
that would have been a fun one to explain.
Yeah, people would have been like, "What is going on?" Adam's moving here, so we're helping him out with some moving stuff, and yeah, it's gonna be fun. Guys, Adam is gonna be full time with Churchfront starting next week. I am so excited. It's gonna be great. So
I thought that Bayer Dynamics were more expensive.
Yeah, $159. I mean, that's pretty reasonable. So.
Did you see you saw my post. The pictures that were attached to my post in your group were about me needing some sort of headphones for our live stream mixer. But the person's on stage, so it's like you need complete isolation because it's kind of... So I basically stuck with in-ears.
Yep. Yeah, in-ears will help. Well, fortunately, they're on stage. Well, actually, no, you guys are right by the drummer. That could definitely be I was going to say, if it was the other side, it might not be as bad. But, man, that's tough. All right, next one. It's the Sony A1. I haven't even spent any time watching any videos about it, but this is like Sony's new flagship mirrorless camera, 8K 30p. We definitely need 8K for our live streams.
Definitely.
It's going to be really great shooting 4K 120. You guys can check out all the review videos about it, but this is like, Sony is just, I think in this like entry-level mirrorless camera world, Sony's just like making Canon cry, I feel like, when it comes to some of these things, like the A7S III that came out versus the R5. I mean, the R5's great, but Sony, they got some cool stuff. They're making it very tempting for a Canon guy to switch over, but I still love my Canon cameras. Yeah, so it just has all these ridiculous specs that it'll be great to flex to your friends, but you probably won't even use most of them.
It has some sort of networking built in too. I don't know what it's for or what it does, but if it could do like video over network built in, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. Do you see it was doing eye detection on a bird? It's like, hey, our camera could do eye detection on a falcon as it's about to grab its prey. That's insane. Okay, so then what's next?
Last one.
Dante card for the wing. Oh, I'm so excited about this, guys. I'm so excited. Oh, man. So I'm starting at South Fellowship Church this week, and they have a wing, and this was the biggest weakness of it. But now we can get one of these. I don't even know.
That's exciting.
When can I order it? Where can I even order this dang thing?
I bet if you contact one of those big places,
Okay.
like directly, they can start to find out. Or because a lot of times when Behringer releases a product and it's not available like on their websites yet, they can still order it.
Okay. Yeah, I'll figure it out. I'm gonna text my email my Sweetwater rep and be like, hey, Grant, give me a Dante card now. Pull your strings. Figure out how to find one of these things. I mean, I'm just excited that they like announced it because that was like, now we just got to wait 5 years for Audinate to update Dante for the M1 Max, and then we'll be really set to go.
Right.
That's the other major kind of setback, but I will definitely be looking into that. That is a huge game changer for people using the wing. Man. So that's one downside of being an early adopter. What?
Ambient Productions brought up a good point that the Behringer dropped all their resellers. If you want to help the small guys, you can't really do that by ordering Behringer through them anymore.
What do you mean? So like you can only do it through the big guys, like Sweetwater and yeah.
They call them like super partners. I think they still have partnerships with some smaller people still, but it may not last. Like, it might go away.
Well,
Because
I doubt they would. Here's the thing, though. They love Sweetwater, and those guys because, and I get it. So from Behringer's standpoint, they just want to make these things. They don't really want to support them. So they will let guys like Sweetwater, which Sweetwater's great. They got the resources for it. We're about to release our Sweetwater video next week. So you guys will see like what all this entails, but they can stock the inventory, so they can buy, a bunch of wings as soon as they make them, or X32s, and then they got a tech support team, so it's like they can just support them, or they got a good return policy. Like, I don't know, man, sweet, like it. But I mean, I feel bad for like if the smaller resellers can't really get in the game. That's not fun for them. That's even something we've tossed around here at Churchfront, is like maybe we should sell some boards. But then when I think about it, I'm like, I don't want to be the one handling returns and tech support around that stuff. Like, we already do tech support on boards we recommend, but it's like because people are in our coaching program. This is like kind of brings it to a new level if we're the ones actually fulfilling these orders. So, yeah, that's exciting though. Yay.
Are you going to do any videos of the wing at your church? I know you've released some videos related to it in the past.
Yeah, well, we did we did the video walkthrough. I did the walkthrough with Aaron a couple months ago, and just they've liked it. They've really enjoyed it. They're currently mixing for their broadcast with the wing at South Fellowship, and like you can go listen to it online. Like, it sounds okay, but it's not as good as it could be. We're gonna try to mix in a box instead relatively soon, and that's why the Dante card made me excited, because like, I could make it just easier and quicker to do that. Yeah. But yeah, so it's gonna be fun. I was actually like, this Sunday's my first Sunday at South Fellowship, not leading. Chipper's gonna be helping out, and I'm gonna be kind of like behind the scenes for a few weeks, and then mid to late February, once our new baby is here and everybody's healthy and okay, Lord willing, I'll be able to lead again normally. So we're just getting into the swing of things. Like, just yesterday I was chatting with Aaron, walking around their space, and like, there's going to be a lot of fun things that we can do to make great content for Churchfront, learn more things, try things out. It's going to be a blast. So, and then eventually do some live workshops here. That's one of the goals, to be able to have people come here, and maybe we can get Cody to come out for ProPresenter, to feature ProPresenter stuff or something like that.
Not if you ask me support questions.
Yeah. All the support. We'll give you a shirt that says ProPresenter support or something like that. So. Well, guys, an hour and 27 minutes in. I think we covered all we needed to cover today for the Churchfront show. Everybody go check out renewedvision.com and join the ProPresenter Facebook group. If you're a user, Cody's always hanging out in there. Ask all your support questions to Cody. Just kidding. Go to support on Renewed Vision's website to get support for ProPresenter. Lots of exciting things, and I really do think they are disrupting the live streaming software space, especially for churches. So excited about that. And go check out worshipministryschool.com. Apply for a program today. Thank you so much, Cody, for coming on. Appreciate you, brother. And all you guys, keep up the great work in your ministry, and we will see you hopefully next week. Who knows? We like to keep it a surprise. So have a good day, guys.